The Equifax data breach in 2017 caused a significant data loss for more than 145 million people in the US, UK, and Canada. Cybersecurity has become a top priority for financial institutions around the globe, particularly in the digital lending. The Equifax incident was considered a wake up call for the industry. But even before that, data security in lending space has been a critical issue for institutions as well as regulators. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Analytics Insight, where we dive into the critical topics that are shaping the future of business, technology, and innovation. And I'm your host, Priya Dialani. As digital lending platforms grow in popularity, they offer consumers and businesses across to credit at their fingertips. But with that convenience also comes the growing threat of cyber attacks, data breaches, and even fraud. So today we will be addressing one of the most pressing challenges in the fintech industry, that is cybersecurity in a digital lending space. So let's welcome Anil Sinha, Chief Technology Officer of Fibe. Hi Anil, how are you doing?
Hey Priya, thank you for having me here. I'm good.
Great. It's a pleasure to have you with us on a podcast today, Anil. And of course, we'll be exploring a very critical topic and a discussion in today's world. But before we go deeper into those aspects, let's first talk about Five. So, what exactly the organization is? What is the specialization the company offers? If you can highlight on that.
Sure. So let me start with the five meaning itself. The five stand for financial vibe. We call it passively vibe. We are primarily into fintech lending. Let me give you a very brief use case. With the company started. So basically, somebody, let's say, need money urgently. Let's say maybe some medical emergency or something, right? That person has an option to reach out to friends and family only. Since he cannot go to bank and wait for a couple of days or week to get that money. And not everyone is fortunate enough to have friends and family who can support. And sometimes you may not necessarily want to bother them. And that is why we wanted to create a process where we should do all type of validation which a bank does with the use of technology so that we can reduce the time frame from a couple of days or week to a near real time or real time. And that was the core purpose. And that is where we use a lot of technology to ensuring that understanding the person ability and intention to repay. In terms of the company, we have a three main business line. One is the personal loan, where customer directly come to our app and apply for the loan, and their application get decision on the real time. The money also get credited on the real time, and we serve up to 5 lakh rupees. Second vertical is that where we work with different industry partners. We call it checkout finance. We work with insurance. If you go to any of the top insurance player, you can get your premium finance on EMI. Similarly, if you go to hospital, if you want your hospital bill to be converted into EMI, we have a partnership with all the major hospital in India. Then a school or university, we have a partnership with a school or university where you can get your course finance on EMI. And many of the interesting part is that many of this thing comes at a zero cost from a customer point of view. Other than that, we are actually getting into two new business. One is solar financing, supporting the government initiative on this space, and another is loan against mutual fund.
Great. I think that's quite fascinating, and it's I'm glad to hear how Five has covered a unique position in the industry, especially in such a dynamic and a rapidly evolving space. And I can also see how the foundation goals you have shared also align with the broader trends that we'll be discussing later, and particularly in the way technology is driving innovation and transforming these traditionally driven sectors. Moving ahead, we would also like to know more about you, Anil. I think you have been a author of Building Blocks of Blockchain. It's an well-renowned non-fictional book which explains the core concepts of blockchain, Bitcoin, and Ethereum. So, can you tell us more about yourself, your journey till date, and your role towards the company?
So I graduated from IIT Kharagpur, and after that, I'm having almost 2 decades of experience, primarily on financial technology side. So I work with RBS, Barclay, Deutsche Bank. and now I'm here for more than 5 years in Five. I have a deep interest in technology. I'm very techie. I like to explore new technology and keep working on them. So I have also, like you mentioned, I've written a book on blockchain, and that book is well received globally. Especially most of our sale happen in US and Europe. And other than that, in Deutsche Bank, I was heading the digital transformation initiative for the bank, where I had a global team with me. I had a team in US, UK, Russia, and we are actually preparing the bank to get to the next level of technology, using the right set of technology for have building a more efficient and agile ecosystem, a faster development process to be able to compete with the fintech. And then later on, I joined Five, and I am heading the technology here. And in terms of contribution, you would say basically the core aim is to run the entire company operation by machine. So that's why we call it fintech, financial and technologies. Basically, the entire operation of the company should run by machine. So today, almost 2 million customers come to our platform every month. 2 million new customers, and they get decision and dispersed on the real time. So if somebody applying for the loan at midnight, you will get the money right then. And that is a power of technology, since lot of thing goes into assessing that customer, the customer ability to pay, intention to pay, either checking the fraudulent behavior of the customer. All this thing, uh, technology play a huge role. Then we have a deep integration with, many of our partners, where we offer their services on EMI. For example, if you are on Flipkart, you are shopping, you need some money, you can get that money by clicking couple of buttons there only. And the behind the scene system will assess all your credit worthiness and everything. Similarly, if you are in hospital or in, let's say, university, we have integrated with their ERP system. That means from a user point of view, we can provide a very convenient way of, getting the credit, and also in an affordable way to, make the decisions. And obviously, it's very much a data-driven company. So we spend a lot of time, energy, resources on understanding the data, processing the data. Every day, we would be almost processing a terabyte of a data to get the insight and give a very personalized experience for our user. We recently also had done a couple of things in the Gen AI space. One is we call a doctor AI, which is responsible for reading all the medical bills that we received, and then it's help us identify the key element from the bill. So, and also in terms of like we are talking about the cyber security, and since we are in the lending space, that also in digital, we build a fraud detection model, which would be one of the best in the industry. Yeah, that's how my journey went.
Great. I think it's quite fascinating, and it's clear that a role is really pivotal in driving the company's vision forward. And I'm also intrigued to hear about your journey, your contributions, and how they're shaping both the day-to-day operation as well as the long-term goals of the company. Now, to set the stage, let's take a look at how the digital lending space has evolved over the past decade. It has changed the way people and businesses use credit. So platforms like peer-to-peer lending, buy now, pay later solution, and online loans that discussed in earlier for responses have made borrowing more accessible, faster, and even convenient. So I think borrowers no longer have to wait for weeks or months for the loan approval without any rigorous document processing. So now they can get credit in hours or sometimes even minutes. So what are your views on the current landscape of this digital lending? And when we're talking about digital lending, I think there also comes an increased risk of cybersecurity. So, what are the certain key cybersecurity challenges that a digital lending space is currently facing?
Yeah, yeah. So, like you said, this space has evolved a lot in last couple of years, and I think I believe this will continue to grow. The one of the fundamental reason behind this is that India as a country, we have become much more tech savvy and also used to convenience. So today, we expect a grocery to be get delivered within 15 minutes. We expect that we can get food delivered overnight, and so it's available 24 by 7. Today, nobody go to bank for making any payment, right? And even forget about going to bank. We don't want to wait for 1 day or 2 day to make a payment. It happen instantly. So these things are actually changing the user behavior and user expectation. So that is why credit the world, while the lot of growth has happened, I think it will continue to happen since this has become the get into our DNA as a user. We want everything instantly. If I have a ability to repay and I have an intent to repay, I should get it now. Why I should wait for a couple of days? That's the motto, and that's why they eventually all credit decisioning will get to that process, I believe. And like you rightly said, when we talk about digital lending, it involves money as well as personal data. These two things are a key driver to attract any cyber criminal. And that is why you can say this space would be one of the top target by cyber criminals. So data breaches, identity theft, fraudulent application. These are some of the key major risks this industry is facing. And it's very, very important, in build a system keeping this thing as a center of thing, since if something goes wrong, they take away the trust. And that is why a lot of investment required in cyber security, both at the individual company level, industry level, and at the regulator level.
Well, yes, and thank you for that insightful breakdown. I think it's quite clear that the digital lending space is rapidly evolving, and of course, you mentioned about the certain challenges when it comes to cybersecurity and digital lending. When we're talking about all of this, I think digital lending, like the digital lenders, deal with very sensitive information, personal details, financial records, credit history, and much more. So hackers are very well aware of the value of this data and are constantly seeking vulnerabilities in systems to exploit. So another major concern is account takeover fraud in mobile apps. Now, hackers are employing increasingly sophisticated techniques to hijack user accounts, either by stealing login credentials or exploiting some weak authentication methods. So once they gain access, they can drain the accounts, apply for fraudulent loans, or even manipulate transaction. I think lately in India we are seeing a lot of scams and frauds that are taking place, and some of well-reputed companies are getting into this picture where the fraudsters are taking their names and trying to steal all the information, even just through mobile apps. So, what are some risks associated with the mobile lending app specifically? We're talking about the mobile app section here. So, and how do you think that Five or are there certain ways that can be protected against cyber threats?
Yeah, I think, like you said, uh, this is a hot target for fraudster and cyber criminal, and that is why. And since we deal with the personal data as well as the financial data, it's become very, very important to provide the right security platform. And the problem is, if you look at the problem in the cyberspace, there are two part very from a very high level. One is that. A platform side, the platform that you're using, the app that I'm using, is that secured enough? Does it cover all the security aspect to ensure that fraudsters should not be able to get access of the data or anything? Second aspect of is the user education. Some phishing attack happen where the user is deceived to share their OTP, or the user device itself is mm, uh, somehow got some malware and something like that, right? So this will talk about these two aspects, and as an industry, as a company, we need to ensure that in both the aspect we should do well to ensure we should do everything possible to protect user security and privacy. So first, I think the platform side, basically, it's important to have a day zero security architecture, keeping that security as a center of anything that we do, there should be a multi-level of security so that nobody should be able to get inside of it. While you're creating a multi-level of security, you as a techie, you have to also think of someday it can get breached. And then there should be another layer kicking that if someday somebody even able to get into the ecosystem, he should not able to do any damage. That means you have to have all your data encrypted and everything, right? So that is why security need a multi-level thinking, multi-level security approach where things like WAF, things like multi-factor authentication comes into place. Let me give you an example. Let's say uh, for us, for example, our user base entirely is in India. Then it makes sense for us to restrict the traffic coming from, let's say, different location in the world, and especially there is certain spike in some of those traffic. So that's why you have to have your WAF rule configured in a such a way that any threat should be materialized, should be defeated at the first level itself, and then you have proper authentication, encryption, and then do a vulnerability and the penetration testing on a regular interval. So like we do VAPT testing of all our apps, our infrastructure, our APIs on every 6 months or after any major release, whichever comes first. A regular security audit is very, very important. And in that case, it's also good to, get your system audited from external party, maybe certain compliant vendor, as well as maybe going for certain certification also helps, since it another I also help you audit your process, right? Other than that, let's say you set up the entire ecosystem, which is very safe and secure. Now you have to build a security monitoring. Security monitoring, what I'm saying, is kind of a security operation control where every transaction in the system is getting monitored. So basically, as a lending app, what we provide is that option for user to come and provide their detail, do KYC, uh, do get the disbursement, do the loan repayment, and many other things. Like for us, like we have couple of other financial products like voucher and all these things, right? So all these things are a sort of a transaction which is happening between the user and the platform, and all this transaction has to be monitored. And this, but today, I think fortunately, it's with the advent of AI, it's become much more easier to monitor this transfer. So if you have a well-trained AI which is monitoring your ecosystem, it would be able to flag if it sees any, suspicious behavior. Let's say all of a sudden a request coming for certain IP, right? So any type of suspicious behavior is able to flag early. Whether the even if the request is failing, your WAF is blocking those requests, but this monitoring will help you understand what happening around your ecosystem. Similarly, fraud detection, right? Again, in fraud detection, you have to look at the transaction, where it's coming from, uh, with which IP, which location. So if you look the entire ecosystem, the way the syndicate work, many a time they work in certain groups, and you will be able to find the hidden relationship among people if you able to put everything on the AI or the graph ML. So these things are very, very important to ensure that you build a platform which is very much safe and secure, as well as you have a 24 by 7 security monitoring of your ecosystem. Second aspect from the user side, like I talked about, uh, many a fraudster in some way get an access to OTP of the user, or get them shared certain credentials, right? So while you continue to educate the user, we should continue to do that. But even more important is, how to identify that, this transaction may be happening due to OTP sharing. So let's say you have delivered a OTP in Mumbai, but the OTP validation request is coming from Delhi. This is one way to look at, it's a suspicious transaction. Maybe all of a sudden you see a different change in the behavior. A particular person always log in from, let's say, place X, but all of a sudden request coming from somebody somewhere else. Or maybe there is change in devices. So if you look at lot many data together, it give a sense of, we build a sort of a scorecard which tell us whether, this is suspicious transaction or not. If it is suspicious transaction, in that case we get into another layer of authentication, so that even if user by mistake, get into, some trap, we would be able to give another chance. Secondary, like sometimes the user devices itself is rooted or maybe compromised. Our app have an ability, and we should, have an ability to, identify whether uh, user app itself is compromised. In that sense, the app should stop working and not allow any critical transaction to happen. So there are many ways we can work on it, and like I said, this is the evolving threat. So the cyber criminals will also keep on evolving as a platform player, as a financial entity with fintech, bank, or NBFC. All need to collaborate together and continue to, work on that direction.
True, and I think you've touched upon some really important points, specifically into the mobile lending apps. And as in when these apps are growing in popularity, they also come with their own set of risks. And of course, protecting against these threats required a truly multi-layered approach. Encryption should be a standard practice to ensure sensitive information. Strong authentication mechanisms like the multi-factor authentication are vital for safeguarding user accounts, and eventually, like you mentioned, continuous monitoring and a real-time fraud detection system can help, quickly identify unusual activity and prevent unauthorized access. So I think there's a lot of exciting innovations happening in this space to mitigate these threats and risks. But it's also fascinating to see how the industry is evolving to make these platforms more safer. Now, if we talk about some exciting things, I think as the overall threat landscape is evolving, I think the defense mechanism should also evolve. So, one trend we are seeing is the increasing use of blockchain technology. Now, while blockchain is commonly associated with cryptocurrencies, its decentralized and transparent nature makes it an ideal solution for enhancing the security of digital lending transactions. Because blockchain can help ensure that the data cannot be altered once it's recorded. It kinds of provide an additional layer of security. So if I think one is blockchain technology. Apart from that, do you feel are there any other technologies that can play a significant role in enhancing the overall security of the digital lending scape?
So basically, the way I will put it is, it will be a combination of multiple technology coming together that will help in the improving the security of this space. One, of course, we talked about AI, where, AI help you understand large amount of data and get insight from it very quickly, right? Only if you look at the AI along with geofencing, so basically what happens is that many a time fraudsters have a small hotbed in a different location. The ability to understand first of all, ability to understand it's a syndicate happening, and then if you look at the transaction geolocation and their other parameter IP device, this able to help you triangulate, identify a suspicious transaction very quickly. So, and then blockchain, like I said, one of the major problem in the industry is, identity theft. People see today, in India at least, we are not very sensitive about sharing our data. Aadhaar card, PAN card, we give it to almost everybody we need it for any purpose, right? And these all data are very, very critical data, and they can be misused. And that is where the blockchain can play a role, where, have your identity is a central identity. That means your identity cannot be misused by anyone else's identity, right? And similarly, if you look at the CBDC, which the government is working on tomorrow, you can actually, while issuing a loan or maybe issuing the payment, you can actually program that currency for the end use. That means even if somebody able to get that data, is end use would be very, very limited. So combination of this technology, for example, AI, network, AI, uh, geolocation, blockchain, together will be able to create a much more a stronger shield, uh, per se, you can say. Also, one thing I would like to touch upon is basically, if you look at the today ecosystem, we are primarily focused on identifying person as a fraud. As the digital lending is evolving, we need to identify device as a fraud, so that that will give another dimension to share among peers. So if the same device is used for, let's say some device hit me, the same device hit some other lender, they would be able, if I'm sharing that information to a wider group, they would be able to, do probably additional due diligence in those suspected devices. So that's why a combination of technology and coordination among the fintech player, among the financial player and the regulator would really help us build a robust ecosystem, which would be much safer and secure.
Well, yes, I think that definitely makes sense because we it's not just about the data that's at risk. It's the entire technology stack itself that can be vulnerable, and it's very important that we are not just finding what is the type of fraud, but who is doing the fraud and understanding and protecting the digital lending scape. But again, I think cybersecurity is a very rapidly changing field, and digital lenders need to leverage expertise of specialized security vendors to stay ahead. Now, whether they are doing that through partnerships or third-party audits, or implementing their in-house cutting-edge cybersecurity measures or solutions. So, all of these collaborations are very essential to stay protected. And be ready. I think when the times are changing and when new threats or new mechanisms are coming into the picture. So I want to understand from you what is your vision in terms of how the future is going to be when we are talking about digital lending and cybersecurity.
Yeah, so like you rightly said, cybersecurity space require a continuous investment, and it's more important to have an investment at a industry level, basically maybe a tech company providing a solution. You are building something in grown, and then also coming something from the regulator. So everything, I believe, will work in a cohesive manner, since one company itself cannot build the entire solution. That's why everyone is having a very dedicated tech company building a tech solution, and then you have your own homegrown solution, and then you're combining these two things is very, very important. And it's important to understand that there is a role of technology and there is a role of knowledge. While I am in this business, nobody would know better than me how the customer behavior is changing, how the data flow is happening. That is why a tech platform would be additional leverage. But you have to invest as a fintech player. You have to invest on your data understanding, since you would be the one who would be able to identify the behavior much quickly than pure tech platform. And that is where I believe that combination is very, very important. For example, let's talk about attack surface. How would you ensure that all your domain and everything is secured or not? And that there were a lot of tech company, we have built a lot of solution like this, which can at least keep on bombarding your system and from external facing system, and to look at the vulnerability open. If somebody by mistake makes some changes, those things would be able to identify if you have a continuous monitoring of your ecosystem. And that is where it's a partnership that matter a lot. And the better the partnership, we would be able to build a more effective ecosystem. So I completely align with you. Um, this space require a lot of partnership and the learning. Another important thing is that basically, if there's any incident happen anywhere in the financial space, it is very, very important to share that information, what happened, how it's happened, and if they're learning for it. And that is why internally we ensure if we get to know some incident happen anywhere, we try to get as much information possible and try to see if there's a learning for us. So that's why it's gonna to be a very collaborative approach to build a ecosystem which is much more safer, secure for end users.
Well, yes, definitely. I agree with you, Anil. And I think cybersecurity is now at the heart of digital lending's future because with increasing reliance on technology to facilitate financial transactions, protecting customer data and ensuring the integrity of lending platforms are, I think, non-negotiable. So as the digital lending space continues to grow, so too will the sophistication of cyber threats. But with proactive security measures, innovative solutions, and collaborations like we just discussed, I think digital lenders can stay ahead of the curve and ensure a very safe and seamless experience for the users. Well, thank you so much, Anil. It was a pleasure having you with us on a podcast. And we discussed about the role of cybersecurity and some strong security measures as to why these are important in the rapidly changing field of digital lending.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you very much. I'm enjoying talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anil. So, this is for our listeners. That's all for today's episode. I think you have gained some valuable insights in terms of digital lending. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, stay secure and keep innovating. And you can listen to all our previous podcasts on Spotify and other leading platforms. Thank you so much.